What if some of the world's most iconic canyons and mountains are not natural at all, but ancient open-pit quarries? Imagine the Grand Canyon, Arizona's Fish River Canyon in Namibia, China's Yangtze Three Gorges, India's Satpura Escarpments, even the Scottish Highlands or the Siberian Puturana Plateau, massive carved landscapes that resemble industrial excavation sites. Each features stepped terraces, abrupt cliffs, and sheer rock faces. In modern quarries like Chile's Chuquicamata and Arizona's famous copper pits, we see vertical benches, terrace layers, and flat-work surfaces, strikingly similar to the natural formations mentioned. Likewise, Brazil's Espinhaco Range and Germany's Harz Mountains reveal quarried-like strata. Across Asia, Thailand's marble quarries in Saraburi carve concentric cliffs looking more engineered than eroded. Could all these be the scars of a long-lost planetary mining operation? This Forbidden Quarry Hypothesis challenges accepted geological wisdom. Rather than carved by rivers, glaciers, or tectonic plate shifts, perhaps these natural wonders are artificial, leftover remnants of a prehistoric civilization's resource extraction, or even extraterrestrial intervention. What if the Earth's surface is actually a patchwork of abandoned mines, repurposed by time into canyons and mountains? The possibility forces us to reevaluate how we define natural. Let's peel back the layers, beginning now with Earth's most famous gorge, the Grand Canyon. Before we dig any deeper, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. If you're the kind of person who questions the surface of everything, including the surface of the Earth, then you're in the right place. Let's uncover what's been buried together. The Grand Canyon stretches a staggering 446 kilometers long and plunges over 1.6 kilometers deep. Official science credits eons of erosion by the Colorado River, uplift, and weather cycles. But take a closer look. The canyon walls display horizontal benches and tiered cliffs that mirror the design of large-scale open-pit mines. In fact, modern copper operations, such as Chile's Chuquicamata and Arizona's Morenci mine, sculpt identical benches to safely access mineral veins. Across the canyon floor, there's an absence of typical river debris, no massive sediment fan where rock should accumulate. Meanwhile, spots like the Tonto platform reveal flat shelves reminiscent of bench-cut surfaces, not gradual erosion. Borrowing salt from elsewhere, Namibia's Fish River Canyon, the second largest in the world, also features stepped terraces lined with sharp drop-offs. India's Satpura Escarpment and the Nirmada Rift Valley exhibit similar benching and basalt layers. Even Europe's vast Rhine Valley in Germany cuts through bedrock in regular steps. If terraces signify human excavation in modern mines, what do they mean here, nature's whim or ancient engineering? The consistency of terrace heights suggests targeting of specific rock strata for extraction. Add to this Australia's Kimberley Canyon and the Karijini Ranges, which show unnaturally flat fractures across multi-kilometer swaths. These features are not isolated. They form a global blueprint. What if the Grand Canyon wasn't so grandly carved by water alone, but partly hollowed out by purposeful removal of resource-rich layers? Ancient miners, whether human, pre-human, or extraterrestrial, could have worked these sites, guided by geological sophistication and giant-scale engineering. Their efforts would etch the planet far more deeply than any river could, creating the staircases we now call natural terraces. If this is true, the natural wonder could actually be one of humanity's or someone else's first massive open-pit quarries. Let's shift focus to Asia, home to some of the most geologically complex and visually baffling landscapes. Take China's Wulingyuan scenic area in Zhangjiajie, where thousands of pillar-like rock formations rise vertically like abandoned support columns. Their uniform height and spacing resemble what's left when overhead layers are methodically removed. Mainstream geology blames millions of years of uplift and erosion, but the shapes are unnervingly consistent. These aren't random spires. They look like what remains after systematic quarrying from above. Even the famed Yellow Mountains of Anhui Province bear flattened tops and exposed vertical cliff faces, suspiciously resembling the remnants of material extraction. Further west, in Kazakhstan's Basra Valley, dramatic cliffs and buttes soar abruptly from a flat desert. Again, what's missing is the transitional erosion one would expect. Instead, we find isolated masses and layered walls that appear sliced, more akin to what a massive cutting device would leave behind. The Himalayas themselves, especially along the Spiti Valley in northern India, display abrupt shelf formations and kilometer-long rock walls with near-linear cracks running parallel, strongly hinting at mechanical stress or systematic removal, not chaotic plate collision. Meanwhile, in Iran's Dasht-e region, enormous geometric rock terraces appear where nothing grows. Their flat, squared surfaces stretch for kilometers and mirror the appearance of tailings dumps from modern mines. Afghanistan's Bamiyan Valley, once home to towering Buddhas, features vertical cut walls hundreds of meters tall, aligned with a precision that seems alien to erosion. Could these be remnants of quarry walls, their natural context a misreading of a forgotten industrial era? All these landscapes share telltale signs: repeated strata cuts, clean verticals, and missing debris. The absence of gradual transitions hints not at time, but technology. Perhaps a forgotten age of mega-engineering left these plateaus raw and exposed, not as monuments to nature, but as scars of a planet once harvested with cosmic precision. Crossing into Africa, the Namib Desert's eerie Fish River Canyon astonishes with its terraced, symmetrical layers, each level exposing different strata in a pattern echoing industrial stripping. Unlike typical river-cut canyons, Fish River's curves are boxy, and its terraces appear too flat and uniform. A similar anomaly lies in Angola's Tundavala Gap. Sheer cliffs over 1,000 meters tall plunge from a mesa-like plateau, eerily like the open walls of a quarry. But even more striking are the unnatural-looking cuts around Ethiopia's Simien Mountains and the Sudanese portions of the Nubian Desert, where entire cliff faces have collapsed in clean sheets, not crumbly erosion. Europe isn't excluded from this quarry hypothesis. In Scotland, the Highlands and Glen Cove form stepped valleys and smooth basin floors, features mirrored in modern gravel pits. Spain's Las Medulas, often cited as a Roman gold mine, reveals massive, artificial-looking cavities cut directly into mountain ranges. But here's the question: was Las Medulas truly Roman in origin? Or was it a reused feature from an earlier, forgotten epoch? Parts of the Carpathians and Albania's Valbona Valley also reveal steep escarpments with suspiciously clean lines and wide-base clearings, reminiscent of tailing zones. And then comes Russia. The Putorana Plateau in Siberia is one of the least explored but most telling formations. An expanse of deep canyons, vertical-sided plateaus, and parallel ridges, many of which resemble terrace pits with no clear natural origin. The region contains so many stepped features that it looks like a top-down excavation site. In the remote Altai and Ural Mountains, vast rock faces have clean horizontal breaks, and in areas like the Lena Pillars, you find towering formations that look like giant drill cores or support columns. From Angola to the Arctic Circle, the signature is disturbingly similar: terraces without tectonics, platforms without builders, and excavation profiles without a workforce. But what if the workforce was not human, or not from our era at all? These are not mere coincidences. The fingerprint of extraction spans continents, suggesting a civilization, or force, that once reshaped the Earth for its own ends, leaving behind not monuments, but mines. South America, a continent shaped by ancient forces, presents perhaps the most haunting candidates for the Forbidden Quarry Hypothesis. In Venezuela's Gran Sabana region, the Tepuis' massive flat-topped mountains like Mount Roraima rise like mesa platforms. With vertical walls over 400 meters tall and perfectly flat summits spanning kilometers, they defy conventional geomorphology. Geologists attribute their form to erosion of sandstone over millions of years, but the sheer drop-offs and angular uniformity tell a different story. Mount Roraima, in particular, resembles a colossal block sliced from the earth, a platform left behind after the rest was extracted. Further south in Bolivia's Valley of the Moon and Peru's Marcahuasi Plateau, bizarre stone shapes and terraces evoke visions of a shattered landscape post-extraction. Even the Andes themselves, particularly in Argentina's Quebrada de Humahuaca, exhibit entire mountains with flat faces, rectangular cuts, and unnatural symmetry. Some local legends speak of sky beings and the carving of the earth myths that curiously align with visual evidence of something more than wind and rain at work. Across Utah's Canyonlands and Bryce Canyon, towering hoodoos and columns appear as though entire sections were lifted or vaporized, leaving only jagged remnants behind. Further north, Canada's Nahanni National Park showcases valleys carved with surgical neatness, featuring cut-like ridges and bowl-shaped voids. In Greenland, recently deglaciated zones reveal symmetrical butte formations that again resemble modern open-pit structures. If this is nature's work, then nature seems to be operating with a blueprint and tools. What we call natural wonders may be the industrial leftovers of a forgotten age. These canyons and formations don't just mirror quarries, they demand to be viewed as such. And if they were cut, not carved by time, Then who or what was doing the cutting? Further west, in Iran and Turkey, mountains like Alvand and Mount Ararat feature plateaus with abrupt cliff faces and bowl-like indentations. In Saudi Arabia's Alula and the surrounding Hijaz region, ancient carvings and tombs like those of Madain Salah are cut directly into rock faces that themselves resemble partially processed quarry walls. The surrounding desert is littered with freestanding stone blocks, as if detached from a larger monolithic project. These aren't isolated anomalies. They resemble the abandoned remnants of enormous extraction zones, complete with loading platforms and access cuts. India's Deccan Plateau, a basaltic formation created, supposedly, by ancient lava flows, stretches over 500,000 square kilometers. Yet it's marked by gigantic step terraces, vertical cliffs, and flat plains that do not match volcanic behavior alone. In areas like the Western Ghats and Satpura ranges, massive cuts and level surfaces span for miles, defying natural randomness. Could this vast formation be the result of layer-by-layer removal of valuable minerals, or something even more fundamental? Even the continent island of Australia plays its part. Uluru and Mount Connor, isolated monoliths in the outback, rise vertically from the desert floor with uncanny symmetry. Uluru's elliptical base and smooth surface are often said to be sacred and living rock by Aboriginal tradition, but what if its sacredness stems from ancestral knowledge of it being artificial or altered? The flatness of Mount Connor's summit resembles a half-finished operation, the upper layers harvested, the stump left behind. From the Middle East to the Australian desert, the signs point to a deliberate hand, an intelligence that once reshaped the terrain with mathematical precision. And still today, these scars remain in full view, hiding in plain sight, misnamed as natural. If we take a step back and look at the global pattern, isolated flat-top plateaus, steep quarry-like cliffs, uniform vertical walls, and missing debris, it becomes harder to dismiss these as mere coincidences of nature. The precision, the repetition, and the scale all echo one chilling possibility. We are not looking at untouched geology, but remnants of an Earth-wide extraction operation. Could ancient landscapes have been engineered? And if so, by whom? And for what purpose? In modern times, we recognize quarries by their distinct signatures: terraced sides, sharp cuts, uniform shapes, and absence of surrounding rubble. The resemblance of these features to what we see across mountain ranges and canyons worldwide is too exacting to ignore. And when these patterns appear in remote regions where no modern machinery has ever operated or could have operated, we must consider that they might predate our current civilization entirely. The notion that ancient advanced civilizations may have possessed technology capable of altering landscapes on a global scale is not new. From ancient Sumerian texts to Vedic scriptures, there are accounts of skyborne crafts, celestial weapons, and massive construction efforts undertaken by gods or beings of immense power. What if these weren't myths, but distorted historical memories of real planetary engineering? Some researchers propose that Earth, in its deep past, was terraformed, perhaps not just once, but in multiple stages. In this context, vast quarrying wouldn't be a byproduct of civilization, but a core function of its rise. Raw material, minerals, crystalline silicates, rare elements, might have been harvested for energetic, technological, or structural purposes. Entire regions may have been leveled not for habitation, but for reconfiguration. The eerie silence around these formations in mainstream academia could be a product of willful ignorance, or worse, active suppression. If evidence exists that humanity is not the first industrial power on Earth, it would challenge not just history books, but the very structure of our belief systems. Our understanding of progress, technology, and our place in the cosmos would be upended. And perhaps that's the real reason these scars are labeled natural, to avoid the terrifying implications of what they truly might be. Assuming these formations are indeed remnants of ancient extraction sites, the question naturally arises: what kind of machinery could achieve such feats? How do you cut through mountains, carve out entire valleys, and leave behind surfaces more precise than anything seen in natural erosion? Modern open-pit mining and tunnel boring technologies offer only a faint shadow of what would have been required to alter Earth's geology on this level. Which leads us to consider, were there machines far beyond what we can imagine? Depictions of enormous wheels, flying chariots, and powerful sound-based tools are scattered throughout ancient texts. In Hindu epics like the Mahabharata, weapons and vehicles described defy any explanation through pre-modern technology. Even Plato's description of Atlantis mentions a civilization capable of manipulating the landscape. Could these myths be echoing real tools, massive, ultra-precise machines used in geological engineering? Some theorists suggest that energy-based cutting, such as resonance frequency disruption or plasma tools, could explain the smooth edges and lack of tool marks. The absence of slag or debris might indicate molecular disintegration or even material teleportation, technologies far beyond ours, but plausible for a species thousands or millions of years more advanced. Just as we reshape environments with relative ease today, another intelligence could have done so, but on a far larger scale. There are even more controversial ideas. Some believe Earth once had a network of massive machines embedded into its crust, geological processors that extracted resources directly from the mantle or regulated planetary energies. The remaining plateaus, cliff faces, and strange, isolated formations may be the foundation mounts or access points to these buried mechanisms. But even without invoking alien intelligence, the possibility of a lost high-tech civilization of terrestrial origin is compelling. What if a branch of humanity reached a level of industrial and geological mastery and then vanished, leaving only the scars behind? What if the flood myths and global catastrophes described in almost every ancient culture are remnants of the same event? A global reset that wiped away the builders but left their tools buried deep beneath stone and myth. If the ancient world truly bore the marks of intelligent terraformation, then the logical follow-up question is, where did all the evidence go? Where are the machines, the ruins, the tools? The unfortunate reality is that Earth is a dynamic planet. Erosion, tectonic activity, volcanic processes, and especially cataclysms, whether natural or artificial, are more than capable of burying or erasing even the most massive structures. But perhaps even more concerning is the idea that this erasure was intentional. History is full of deliberate destruction. Libraries burned, monuments defaced, cultures annihilated. The pattern of erasing inconvenient truths is deeply human, and if other, more powerful forces walked this earth before us, they may have done the same. Entire epochs could have been stripped from record, buried under ice sheets, or drowned beneath rising seas. The great flood stories, found in over 200 cultures globally, speak of an extinction-level event, perhaps not just of life, but of memory. We're taught that the oldest known civilizations date back 5,000 to 6,000 years, Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley. But what if that's only the latest layer of civilization, not the first? Just as modern cities are built atop the ruins of older ones, Earth itself may be a palimpsest, a rewritten canvas, with each new layer obscuring the last. And in remote deserts, deep caves, or submerged plateaus, traces of those earlier layers may still remain. There's also the unsettling theory that we are not meant to find this evidence. That whoever, or whatever, orchestrated the planetary extraction did so with such precision that traces were removed or hidden by design. The surviving pits, valleys, and plateaus were left behind either as mistakes or as silent monuments. Perhaps they serve as warnings. Or perhaps they were never meant to be noticed by a species like ours. Yet here we are, beginning to see what was long buried in plain sight. And as more independent researchers, explorers, and digital archaeologists begin to investigate satellite imagery, ancient maps, and terrain anomalies, the evidence continues to mount. We may not be able to name the builders, but we can recognize their work. The only question left is, are we too late to remember, or just in time to rediscover?